means what exactly or type of activity or action I'm trying to perform. Now, like I said, if it was a file transfer, it would be something like FTP and so forth. Then we get to what we call and I'm going to tackle this first before we get down to these things in the bottom. Then we get to what we call the fully qualified domain. So the fully qualified domain name, and you see it most of the time, would be in something like www.example.com, as we see in this instance. And over here, I'll talk about the port in a second. One thing you can't talk about is the fact that this URL or fully qualified domain name is divided into subcomponents. So the www in this instance is what we call a subdomain. It could either be school.example.com, it could be dashboard.example.com, it could be anything. So the other part of it, which is the top level host, is essentially almost always the last parts of that domain name. So in this case, example.com is pretty much the top level domain. And then we can see that there's a number associated after the colon. This part of the URL, in this case, is typically referring to a port. So in this case, we're saying port 80. This is where we're directing traffic to. A lot of applications run on different ports within the servers. So this is telling it this particular either a web server or web address or web application, whatever is running on port 80, which is pretty much what it is. Now, we'll look at the next one in the next slide, which is more of a secure version. You'll see that the port number changes to something else, and we'll talk about that. Now, there's something else also called the path. And the path typically is pointing to something that, in this case, for example, it says search.